Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life once again this week. If you enjoy our conversations, remember to subscribe, leave a comment, share with a friend. Today we have Zen Cryer de Broek with us, and Zen has codified the human internal guidance system. So we're going to talk about how you can make more aligned choices. Not using your intuition, but using something else. Welcome, Zen.
Hi, I'm so happy to be on the show today. Thank you for having me. I just love your topics and I am excited to be here.
I'm excited to share a really practical way of living with our audience that can really help them make better decisions and more aligned decisions. That can be soul level decisions.
Exactly. It's so profound. So for the past 23 years, I have been researching this internal guidance system. It resides in our body and every single human is born with it. All right. And so when you get a lump in your throat or a tight feeling in your chest or a sick feeling or like a rock in your solar plex area, this is actually guidance. We have termed stress, worry, fear. Now notice all these things show up in your body right in the center. Anxiety, overwhelm, impatience, frustration, irritation, guilt, procrastination. If you notice when you're procrastinating, it shows up as this tight, icky feeling in the center of your body. And so these things are actually guidance that in the moment your thinking is moving out of alignment with what's going to bring you success and happiness. And when you learn how to decode it, which I've done for people so they can just follow the decoded moment, you can instantly release that sensation and get back to center and know that you're moving into an aligned thinking that if you keep going in that path, it will bring you success and happiness. And what's been happening for individuals, I've trained over 40,000 individuals and 4,000 master students, is that life completely changes because the suffering goes away. These feelings are, frustration is suffering. Impatience, procrastination, these are suffering feelings. And we don't have to live that way anymore. In fact, we can tune into this in a way where we can reprogram the neural pathways of our brain away from suffering, which is a profound evolution for humanity, if you think about it.
I love this, Zen. I really do. Something I teach my clients too, as well, to tune in and pay attention, because sometimes those little messages are so subtle and so fleeting. And we're so lost in our thoughts that we totally miss them. Some people can't even connect with their body to even discover what guidance is coming through. How do you help people that are that far away from their connection?
In the academy, what we do is I first start them off with just noticing when they have the sensation in the body. And then there's a phrase that we give them that works. And I don't want to say it right now. I'll say it at the end as a tidbit for your listeners to go do. But I want to give them a little more information. But what happens is there are a lot of people who are not connected with their body. Either they've had, physical abuse, sexual abuse in their childhood. They've had a lot of chronic pain. There's ways in which we just start ignoring our body. And so that is an important point. The other thing is a lot of people don't know what they're thinking. So they'll feel this tight sensation. They'll say the phrase, they'll feel the release instantly. And then they're like, what was I just thinking? Because we don't pay attention to what's going on inside our minds. And the crucial thing is our minds are creating our lives. The stories that we tell about people and our lives and what we can do, that's all generated from our mind. And if we don't know what's going on up there, we're creating things that we're unaware of. And so this process that I take people through, it actually gets them really, really in tune with who they are and what is right for them. A lot of times people will think they're broken, that they have these problems, mainly because they were told that as children. And their IGS, internal guidance system, IGS for short, their IGS will show them that those things that they think are wrong, bad about themselves, that they need to work on are not true. They can release them instantly, honestly, instantly, and get back to who they really are. So there's so much to this. It's almost hard to talk about it because you've got to learn it, but it is incredible what we have inside our bodies that was given to us at birth.
If we only came here with a user manual, how did you ever figure this out, Zen?
Oh my gosh, it was really hard. It was so hard. In 1993, I got a cassette tape aging myself totally, from Esther Hicks. It was one of the first few years that they were working on doing the channeling with Abraham. I had a really, really brutal childhood, lots of challenges, injuries, divorces, suicides, beatings, all kinds of stuff. So I came out the gate at 17 on my own, really angry and frustrated, and would do things like quit a job and, walk off and expect them to chase me down the street, or break up with boyfriends, or get in a fight with a roommate, and now I'm living out of my car. And I was just angry and reactive. And I'm also a great person. So this was so painful for me to have this heart and soul that wanted to do better, but in those moments I couldn't. So on this cassette tape, my friend gave it to me for Law of Attraction to show me I was creating my own reality. But they gave a little 5-minute or less explanation. And they said, you have an internal guidance system. When you're restricted and tight inside in the center of your body, you're moving away from alignment, and you're going to create something that you do not desire to have in your life. And when you're open or expanded and peaceful feeling in the center of your body, you are in alignment with your thinking, and you're moving towards what's going to create joy and happiness and success and what you want in your life. And I must have rewinded that 1,000 times. I mean, the first probably 5 times I couldn't even hear it. I was like, what did she say? Right? Because it was so profound. I began figuring it out. And the hard part is that we believe our thinking. We believe what our thinking is true. And I've discovered that most of our thinking is not true. It's a software program that starts and goes. And that tight feeling happened every time I did something that was about to sabotage my life. So then I had to go through, I knew I was sabotaging my life, but I couldn't change. I couldn't change, right? And I know a lot of people out there having that, right? We're evolved, we're happy, we go home for Christmas and everything hits the fan and we're like, but I'm different now. And your sisters and your brothers and your mother or whoever's always has you the pigeonholed. It's like, no, you're not, and so I found a way to get away from that and really be able to not be the same. I'll give you an example. What color is a yield sign in the US?
I'm going to say yellow. I'm in Canada.
Well, Canadians do say that. And you can see it in your mind, right? You have a picture of it, right? In 1971, the yellow and black yield sign was changed to red and white. By 1974, all the yellow yield signs have been changed to red and white. Now, your listeners are racing to Wikipedia and online because they know they can see it and it's very real. I have been talking about this for 20 years when I found this example, and nobody's ever been able to send it to me, yellow and black. Well, here's the deal. We have so many yellow and black yield signs because what happens is as we're driving through life, our brain doesn't see a red and white yield sign and update. It's imprinted. And so the reason why people born after 1974 have this impression is because they keep reproducing it on billboards. Even my son, who was born in 2014, at 2, saw a guy dancing around on Sesame Street with a yellow and black yield sign attached to music. So now he has it and he'll answer that. And he was born in 2014. I think this is an evolutionary tool that when we all tap into it, everything's going to change. Because what happens is a year from now, I'll ask you this question and you'll still see the yellow and black yield sign. You'll know it's a trick, but you can't figure it out unless you do something physical. So if I gave you a thing to draw the red and white yield sign, you'd have it forever because you're kinetically doing it with your body. And most of our programming in childhood happens from sucking on our fingers and, doing all this kinetic stuff. And that programming is still with us. So that's why it was so hard for me, is because I had to break through these, but I know this thought is true. I know my dad doesn't like me. I know that I'm worthless. I'm a high school dropout. Nobody's ever going to want me. These thoughts like that, right? Once I started using this, I went from high school dropout to college graduate with a degree in high honors in foreign policy and Mandarin Chinese as a minor. And I started my first tech company, then made it to $1 million company by the time I was 28. We're going from 23 to 28. That's how fast it happened, because in following these openings, which I'll walk your listeners through, you're in alignment. So magic and synchronicity just happen all the time. You're never in restriction. And so that's what Abraham was talking about. They didn't quite go that direction with their work that I went, and I have a feeling why they didn't. But this is very practical. This happens, do this. It's like, it really is. I figured out A plus B, and here's your C. And it's very how-to.
I love this, and I really do, because we all know that the world is our projection. We each see everything so differently. A mountain to one person can be a big obstacle. A mountain to another person is the peak and the height of success and freedom, and anywhere in between. Most people have a really hard time to find those places where they're stuck, or they've told themselves that story that, this is the way it is and nothing else is possible. But you're actually showing us a way that we can shift things ourselves to actually align with what really is true.
It is so amazing. It really is, because you use it throughout your day. So there is no, like, I have a hard time sitting. I am on the go. I want to sit, but it just doesn't happen. So what happens is you're in the grocery store and you all of a sudden think, oh no, I forgot. And you feel this tightness, right, in your body. And that means what you're thinking isn't true. And you're like, oh, it's going to be fine. I don't need to do that today. Okay, good. And you just go on with your day. And so, but that's what I was saying about the coloring the red yield sign. This is a kinetic experience that we're having. And so in that moment when you released, you started a new neural pathway. Otherwise, you would have been anxious the whole time and really worried about this thing. It would have made no difference because today it didn't need to be done. And that new neural pathway begins to unwind that worry, because we always worry about the same things over and over and over. And no matter how much we fix that one situation, the same type of situation will come up a week later and you're in it again. By doing this, we actually do a pattern interrupt, and then old programming begins to neurally extinct as we just keep moving into the opening. And very, very quickly, because you're just naturally doing it throughout your day. So you're like getting these wires reconnected differently 50 times a day just by doing the thing you do. Everything changes. Within the first 2 weeks, people say that everyone around them is like, you're different. What's going on?
And you can do it yourself.
And quietly, and nobody knows.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I'm excited to learn more.
So let me walk you through this exercise, and your listeners too, because this is where we start. You have to start connecting the brain to the internal guidance system so that they work together, and they don't know how to do that right now. Maybe in some little areas that you've fallen upon accidentally, but in most areas, we don't know yet. So we're going to connect with our body. So you can close your eyes. That kind of helps people out there for stimulation. Feel the bottom of your feet. Notice that they become a little warm, a little tingly. Your feet suddenly go, hey, she's focused on me. And then focus on the palms of your hands while staying connected to your feet. So they'll both get a little fuzzy, warm energy feeling. And then listen to my voice. Now I'm going to give you 2 statements. And I just want you to pay attention between your throat and your solar plex, the center of your body. See if there's any difference. Let the statement just flow through your mind like a cloud through the sky. Don't attach to it. Don't try to make meaning out of it. Just let it float through. So focus on your hands and feet. And here's the first statement. I do not have an internal guidance system. Don't think about it, just feel. I do not have an internal guidance system. Now focus on your hands and feet again. I do have an internal guidance system. I do have an internal guidance system. Then wiggle your toes, open your eyes. What did you experience, Linda?
It was really interesting. And I have questions, but I'll answer yours first. So when I tuned into the first statement, not having a guidance system, I definitely felt that lump in the throat. And then the energy went right, to the frontal cortex, the thinking part of the mind. And I just watched it and I thought, that's interesting. Okay. And then the second, the energy, instead of going up, it went down and kind of into the gut, but it was also connected to the frontal cortex, but differently.
Oh yeah, it changes the brain.
Yeah. And it felt, more internal, more concrete, more aligned.
People call it often a deep sense of knowing. Yeah, this energy provides an extreme amount of faith. That's the mustard seed faith that they talk about, right? Because you just can't be shaken. When you move away from the thought, if it's not true, you close. So you go right back to the opening. You're like, well, no, that's not true. I can't go there anymore. So what happens is most people, they experience when I say I do not have an internal guidance system, a lump in the throat, a tightness in the chest, a feeling in their solar plexus area, or they can't breathe, like they have less air in their body. And then the second sentence, that releases. And there's like sometimes people report an upward V feeling or a tingling or just a feeling of feeling better about things. I call the first sensation closed or closing, and the second one open or opening. I just had to name it something. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a pattern interrupt. I'm feeling X in my body. And that one seems to work for people. And then what happens is that these sensations are only connected to your mind. It's only about what you're thinking. And this is the dramatic part of this. We have felt that the things around us, it's the bill, it's the person mad at us, it's the person who irritated us. Those people are creating the feeling inside your body. It's not true. It's only your thinking. Your thinking is what creates it. It's this guidance system that's giving you information about the quality of your thinking. It's a little frustrating for people in the beginning because we want to blame everybody around us for the way we feel. But when you get it, you start realizing nobody can make me feel anything. I am in complete control and power of my living experience. So you can choose joy, and you have the how to choose joy, even when things are not going the way you would think they should go. And you also begin to discover that everything is happening for your benefit. And so one of the phrases we use is, I don't know how, but this is going to end up being the best thing that could have happened for me. And I can tell you, after training 40,000 people, I have not heard anyone come back and say that it's been not true. It always, always, always turns it out. And that phrase opens us when we have a really big challenge. This, I don't know how, but this is going to end up being the best thing that could have happened. And that's just one of the tools. We've got like over 150 tools that we teach people for various extreme experiences. So it's really, really incredible and exciting.
I said before, we get so much information that we totally ignore. You are really stressing our responsibility in the creation of our life, and how what we see and how we react are really our interpretations. It's not necessarily true. I guess maybe my question would be, that's really good in the moment for categorizing the quality of your thought and giving you guidance to change that thought. How would you use it to make decisions?
Yeah, so this is interesting because I get this question a lot, and it really, really helps in making decisions. And so a lot of people will, when they first start training, they will do a yes or a no. And for the opening, I got a yes, but it's not a yes. This is more like the hot cold game. So if I use open and closed, open, closed, you're getting closed, right? And then you'll feel it, and then you go back to open, open, open. And so you can use it to make some decisions, and people have some success, and there is a place for that. But what I found is it's more about divine flow. When you get about a month or two into the program, we start working with this energy where we sit with our hands and feet, and we drop into I call it drop into our listening. We also do this listening thing, and people go into a meditative, not trance, but it's hard to explain. We just get quiet. The mind silences because we're focusing on two senses at once. And so when the mind gets quiet, then what'll happen? You just sit there, and it's very pleasant. Everybody was like, I love that space. It just feels so good to my body. And then what happens is you'll start feeling a welling up. It's like a little energy that's attached to a thought, like go get a cup of coffee at the coffee shop, or it's time to pull out your taxes, or return this phone call, or go do the dishes, whatever it is. And you get into this state where you're following the flow, right? So it does help make decisions. But then what happens is since you're always in flow, the decision just comes naturally because you can feel with your body what to do. And you're not creating the thinking. The thinking is kind of being led by something that's more profound. We like to think of it as our soul is helping us to flow into the places where our contribution is needed, right? Because we know exactly where we're supposed to be. And if you get out of flow, you drop back in and you wait, 30, 60 seconds. And then this movement, this divine energy begins to move through you into your life. So decisions become obvious. Decisions change the quality of having to make a decision turns more into an experience of being connected to knowing what you need to do next.
And allowing.
And allowing. It is the state of allowing. There's no restriction in your body, so that you just stay there. Now, people do make decisions, and the only issue, and they have success by like feeling into what they should do, this or that, but we're in a box in our minds, like the yellow yield sign. So there are opportunities and options that we can't see, right? And so when you sit down, you may get closed everywhere because you're trying to decide between this neighborhood and that neighborhood, and you're supposed to move out of state. Where if you're in flow, somehow you'll just end up out of state and you'll be like, oh my God, this is my home. I feel it. I feel this is where I belong. There is no two neighborhoods near where you live.
I'm smiling, Zen, because so many people I know think that their responsibility in creating their life is making choices and then making those choices happen.
Yeah.
The opposite of what you're talking about.
Yeah, it doesn't work. That's why I work a lot with executives who are stuck in their ways and they need a new avenue to be creative. Most of the time, we are supposed to be in a place where we're being carried along by an energy in our body that keeps us alive and feeling pleasant and amazing and excited. And then what'll happen is we'll get a trigger or something. You deal with the trigger and then you go back into being a part of this flow where you're a passenger in an adventure. You really are. And life becomes really exciting. I equate it to when people are on vacation and how vacation's just amazing. And there's all these synchronistic cool things and talking to people by the pool and then going here or this, and you just flow. Like, what do we feel like doing next? That's where we're supposed to be all the time. But as soon as they get home, the should, the have to, the need to, the must, and those things are most often closing. And so that's one of the first things we work on is getting rid of those. Those are little yield signs popping up. Those should, have to, need to, musts. That's one of the big things. There's so much that happens. It's so fun to watch people unwind. One of the first things that happens is they come in and they go, my IGS is closed about something I really want to do. And I'm really trying to find a way to move the closing by thinking different things. I'm like, I'm telling you, if you push through the closing, you won't be happy. And so most people do a couple of times. They'll push through the closing and make something happen. It happens a lot with significant others that you want to be married to and things like that, or a house that you want to buy or a car or whatever. And it never works out well. They're unhappy. And you learn because you can't go, once you know the road, this narrow road that they talk about in a lot of wisdom texts, right? You know how to stay on it. It's like bumper guards with your closing, right? And you know how to stay on it. And the mind has its own agenda, and you start learning that the agenda is not important to you anymore. Most people are like, I don't know why I'm closed. And the senior people who have been studying this for a year or two are like, I don't care why I'm closed. I'm just going to go back to flow. I don't even need to know. I've got the info, And so everything changes. Your humanity, your experience as a being changes dramatically because you're not using your head anymore.
I think that why question really trips us up quite a bit and starts to create stories for us, right? And then we're further away from that flow.
Absolutely.
So, Zan, you had me close my eyes to tune in and focus on my hands and feet. So, is this something that you can't do standing in line at the grocery store or, in the car driving? It's something that you really need total focus in the moment?
Yeah, that's the great question. I love that question. No, that was just a first thing because number one, most people aren't in tune with their body or their thinking. So what will happen if I don't do that in the beginning with someone? Their mind will be thinking about their grocery list or picking up the kids or work related stuff, or they won't be in touch with their body. There's a definite energy. You'll feel that there's this head energy that has a particular feeling and character to it. And then there's the physical IGS. And most people haven't been paying attention to the IGS. When they feel this feeling inside, they immediately go and start overthinking in their trajectory, their programming. So that was just the thing I do in the moment. But what happens is we stop that almost immediately. We do have you actually do your listening practice moving. So in the shower, driving your car, you can feel your hands and feet. You don't need to do that for very long. The very first thing we do is we connect the internal guidance system to the mind so that they know that there's a connection. That's the most important step. And we don't want people sitting down and going, oh, should I buy the house or not? No, we don't want that. You want to be moving through your day and noticing how many times that the closing happens, and then do the phrase, which I'll give your people here in a minute. And then you'll feel an immediate release. Even if it's slight, you've now gotten an opening. So we do the opening closing experience for a week or so. And then your body is like, your mind and both are going, oh, wow, this works every time with all my thoughts. Then we start moving into the practices. So no, the goal is not to have to sit down ever. You're meditating on the go. You're staying connected to your body on the go. You automatically begin to associate the tightness and you're like, well, I'm closed. And then you do the practices about how to get open, because there's many of them. Depends. Frustration is different. Procrastination is different. What do you do with those thoughts to get open? Like, for instance, my husband and I years ago were in a tiff, and I came in all excited and was telling him something I wanted to do. And then he looked at me and he goes, I am so sick of you manipulating me. Now, I'm not a person who feels that they manipulate. And I was like really upset by that statement, right? Reactionary. And I thought inside my head, I don't manipulate him. And I closed. That means what I'm thinking is not true or not going to happen. Those are the two. So I was like, whoa, I am manipulating him. And I opened back up and I went, oh my gosh, honey, what are you talking about? I don't feel I'm manipulative. And he goes, well, you come in here and you're super excited and you're on fire. And then I have to sit here. And if I don't like the idea or the concept, then I have to tell you no. Then you get hurt, you get upset. And I don't want you hurt and I don't want you upset. I want you to be happy. So it's all manipulative. Like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I can't even think about it as what I want. I have to say yes. And that's manipulation. And I was like, okay, I would call that being inspiring. And he laughed and he goes, of course you would, because I'm totally positive. I said, but I'm sorry, I will try to present things in a way where I don't do that to you so you can think about it. We're partners for a reason in this lifetime. And you're supposed to put in your input, or I'm missing a huge part of us, right? And so it changed everything. So in the middle of the thing that I was talking about in the beginning, where I was in the middle of sabotaging, I can stop. And so can the people who study this. And relationships change, everything changes. People are healing with their adult children, getting to see their grandbabies, getting along with their daughter-in-laws than they didn't before, like massive experiences, huge business growth or starting new businesses. There's all this stuff happening because you can feel alignment, and then everything gets easy.
If we circle back, you living in your car and having that really challenging childhood was perfect.
It was. Everything's always perfect, and I wouldn't give up a single minute of it. And that's really crazy to say because it was really rough. But now, as a teacher and a coach, I have so much experience of getting through all of that. This heals trauma. We do a thing called forensic, where you go back and you sit, and this is one of the times you do sit, and you could either write or just re-experience it, and then use your IGS to see which thinking you had in that about the situation, about yourself, about the other person was closing. And when you find your opening, and this is not positive or negative thinking, if you may find your opening that the person was evil and horrible and was trying to hurt you, and it'll open you. But in that opening, there's a comfort. So it's not about positive or negative thinking. You could want to make $8 million a year, but if it closes you, that's not your path. But what your path is will be perfect, and you'll have everything you need before you need it. That's another thing that's a true opening statement all the time. I always have what I need right before I need it. And it'll open people. And that's what happens. That just becomes the faithful assumption, and it happens. So it's a new way to do manifestation, because you don't sit there and think through it and make, focus. No, you get the opening and you go back into flow and you do what you're here to contribute today. And that thing is already coming because you opened, and it will happen every time beautifully, just in perfect order. So it's a lot different than that. So yeah, that's the kind of thing where you use it in the moment.
I love it, Zen. Thank you so much for teaching this to the world.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I feel so honored.
Now, Zen, you mentioned earlier that there's a statement or a phrase that people can use to kind of pull them out of that constricting energy.
Let me give you that statement. This is important. Let's get everybody out that's listening's mind and their IGS working together. Every time you feel closed, which is worried, fearful, anxiety, overwhelmed, procrastination, doubt, guilt, impatience, notice and go, ooh, I'm closed. Let's use this statement. Write it down, everybody. This is the one that works. I've worked with thousands of people. I am closed. That means what I'm thinking is not true or not going to happen. Now, don't worry about it. It'll prove itself to be not true or not never happening. People are like, how do you know that? Well, go do it and you'll notice that it's true. And I've done this for 23 years and it's never not been true. In that moment, you're going to feel a lightening. You're going to feel that tension release. That's an opening. You have gotten an opening. The more that you catch and do the statement, the more that you have that opening, the more your neural pathways are going to be looking for this signal. Okay. Now there's lots of things to do right after that so that you can start examining your thoughts. But those are deeper practices. They take me 15 minutes to teach each one. In the Smart Soul Academy, it's about 15 minutes per module. I don't wear you down with lots of listening, lots of writing things out. We give you a little practice and then you go out and do it and then you get it. And then you come back and you get another little practice. And before too long, you're like doing it. You're just like, I've let go of the bicycle. You're great, and off and running and having your own adventure.
If people would like to learn more, how can they reach you?
So if people want to find me, they can go to smartsoulacademy.com. On there, you can click on the Academy button and it'll give you all the outline. The Academy is $47 a month or $97 with coaching. There's 16 programs inside that covers everything from addiction. For first one, gets you started, but then we go addiction, relationship, how to be a woman in a man's world, work-wise, and use your openings to get yourself aligned with how you work and others. Opening begets opening. Everything you need is in there to create the life of your dreams using your IGS. And we kept it affordable, so that anyone could have access to me with group coaching. Or if they don't feel they need coaching, which lots of people don't, then they just do the programs on their own and they're all very easy.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again for being my guest, Sam.
Linda, it has been a pleasure. You were just so beautiful and enjoyable to be around. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Come visit me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen. It could help you tune into that guidance system too. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.